Welcome to the future of Amazon repricing. Today we're introducing Master Book Repricer, a powerful tool designed to change how you reprice your used books on Amazon. With no monthly fees, no data blind spots, and awesome automatic repricing features, this tool is an absolute game changer for all Amazon used booksellers, regardless of how you source, the software you use, or your fulfillment method. In this video, we'll show an exclusive demo of Master Book Repricer. I'll also provide valuable education on the different ways you can reprice. Let's get started and see how you can improve your Amazon book selling business. All right, before we dive into the demo, let's take a minute to understand the different ways you can reprice your used books on Amazon. So if you're new to selling used books on Amazon, the first thing you need to know is that repricing is really not optional. This is one of the 5 pillars of this business model, and if you don't reprice your books, your sales will suffer, resulting in your profits going down, your weekly inventory turnover rate will go down, and over time, your IPI score within Seller Central will also suffer. Simply repricing your books at the time you make them available for sale on Amazon and forgetting about them is not a viable strategy. The used book marketplace can be pretty dynamic for a large majority of books that you might flip. Prices change often and you'll need to adapt continuously. Repricing is how you do that. Okay, so traditionally there have been 4 ways most used booksellers have been repricing their books. First, you can manually reprice in Seller Central. Second, you can use Amazon's Repricer manually. You can use an automatic third-party repricer, and you can use a non-automatic third-party repricer. But now I'm excited to introduce a new and exciting 5th option. Let's break these down. First, if you're manually repricing your books in Seller Central, you don't have to pay for a third-party repricing tool. So now what are some of the downsides of repricing your books in Seller Central manually? First of all, it is extremely time-consuming. You're going in one at a time and changing your prices. And the more books you have in stock, obviously the longer it will take. This is certainly not a viable option if you want to scale your business at all. The other big con, and I think many sellers don't realize this, is when you simply change your price instead of using an automatic repricer, you are in a bind. You are behind in necessary dynamics, meaning you're just changing your price without having the ability to adapt to the market quickly and continuously. So you're at a disadvantage because when you run into other sellers on the same listing as you that are using automatic repricers, they can easily match and quickly beat your offer automatically, increasing their probability of getting the buy box and getting the sale while reducing your probability. So if you're using an automatic repricer, you can definitely see this dynamic happening, and when you're not using an automatic repricer, you simply don't know that this is going on. As you can see with this quick example, here's the Keepa chart. The green line shows you how often it's selling, and here's the Amazon offers. Now, for this example, we'll assume that we're selling FBA. As you can see, there's a few sellers on the listing, and you'd really rather be competitive, and because sales don't come across multiple times a day, or even a week perhaps on a listing like this, you really want to be competitively priced. And going in manually and simply changing your price, you can easily be outbid instantly for anyone else that is using an automatic repricer on a listing such as this. And finally, manually changing your prices doesn't give you any type of reporting or analytics due to the price changes. All right, the next option is using Amazon's repricer manually. Now you are automatically repricing your inventory, so this is definitely a step up from simply changing your prices using option number 1. The other big benefit is you do not have any data blind spots. And I'll talk a little bit more about data blind spots in a moment, but just know that this is a big positive for using Amazon's Repricer. Next, you can automatically lower your price, or you can automatically raise your prices. For reasons I don't quite understand, some Amazon sellers seem to think that Amazon's Repricer only races to the bottom. That is simply not the case. Now, some of the downsides. First, this can be another huge time suck. For each book, you may need to adjust the minimum price, the maximum price, the selling price, and assign a rule. That's 4 different data points to update instead of 1 like in option number 1. So obviously this can be very time consuming. Next, you can't set repricing rules for inventory that isn't in stock. So you need to wait for that book actually to be in stock before you can assign the SKU to the rule and set the minimum price and maximum price. And that can be frustrating from an administrative standpoint. And it doesn't re-raise prices automatically. You would need to go in manually for each SKU and change the price if the price had dropped and is no longer being impacted by other offers. Another downside is the reporting. It does provide some reports, but they are definitely lacking compared to some of the third-party repricers that are out there. Okay, next, let's talk about these automatic third-party repricers. The good news is that you will actually automatically reprice your inventory, sort of, and I'll explain that in a moment. Many of these third-party repricing tools will tout a variety of bells and whistles, so that could be considered a good pro for using an automatic third-party repricer, but many of these features are not really geared toward those selling used books. For example, when you're selling private label, you may want to raise your price as you start to run out of inventory, or lower your price when you have an oversupply of inventory, because Amazon likes to throw fees at you any way they can, especially for private label sellers. But the big con for these automatic repricers is that they have data blind spots. Amazon only shares the data for the lowest 20 offers. So if you're trying to reprice your inventory against an offer that is priced above one of the 20 lowest offers, your book would not be repriced as you would expect it should. So think about that for a moment. You're actually using a repricer that doesn't always reprice. Now, if that's not bad enough, there's 2 other things you need to understand. Number 1, they do not openly disclose this data blind spot on their website. And if you're watching any of the countless YouTube videos promoting any automatic third-party repricing tool, they likely don't tell you that there either. Next, and this is important, you can't simply run a report that tells you which of your books was impacted by this issue. Now, if you press them and ask them about this, they will tell you that they can view a report that tells you which books were repriced. So then, that leaves you wondering, of the books that were not repriced, was it because they just shouldn't have been repriced because of the way the marketplace was going? Or was it because of this data blind spot issue I'm telling you about? You simply don't know. You would actually have to do quite a bit of due diligence to figure this out on your own. Meanwhile, you are losing out on sales and profit. Now, when I first started using a third-party repricing tool, I wasn't even aware of this blind spot issue. And then once I discovered it, I actually did take the time and go through all my inventory and figure out how much of my inventory was not being repriced. And in my case, it was about 16%. And I don't remember exactly how many books I had when I did this, but I had at least hundreds, if not thousands of books in stock with Amazon at the time of this analysis. And finally, all of these automatic third-party repricing tools come with never-ending subscription fees that can cost you into the thousands before you know it. So recap, if you're using an automatic third-party repricing tool, You're absolutely losing sales and profit because of data blind spots. You're paying for never-ending monthly subscription fees, and in some cases, they actually want to take a portion of your sales. And lastly, before we jump into the demo, I'll mention another option, which is a non-automatic third-party repricer. So in the way in which non-automatic third-party repricers work are actually very similar to option number one, manually repricing, in that you are simply changing your selling price. Now, there's a few different ones out there and they work differently from one another. In some cases, you are going to reprice books one at a time. In other cases, you can reprice all at once. And the other thing is that these typically do not have any data blind spots. But the big minus of these non-automatic third-party repricers is that they are not automatically repricing your inventory. And that's important to understand. Like option number one, you are simply changing your price and that is it. So like option number one, you are still in a bind. You are just changing your prices without adapting to the market quickly and continuously. So you're still at a disadvantage compared to the sellers that are using an automatic third-party repricer. And like the automatic third-party repricers, of course, the big con for this is you are paying again for the never-ending ongoing subscription fees. Now, let's talk about a better option, Master Book Repricer. First of all, it's a continuous automatic repricer with no data blind spots. It is tailored specifically for used booksellers. It is a proven process that we at Master Book Flippers have been using this tool and process since about 2018. There is no need to manually update your books one at a time. You can adjust your selling price, your minimum price, your maximum price, and the rules all at once quickly and efficiently. And the best part, you pay once, you use forever, no more monthly repricing fees. So how does Master Book Repricers work? Well, we've developed our software to harness the capabilities of Amazon's Repricer, which is the only way to automatically reprice and without any data blind spots. Simultaneously, because we are using Master Book Repricer software, we bypass and overcome the key limitations associated with using Amazon's Repricer on its own. On top of that, Master Book Repricer provides you lots of additional functionality specifically designed with the used bookseller in mind, and you certainly won't get this using Amazon's Repricer directly, nor on most any other third-party repricing tool. All right, and let's jump in and take a look. Okay, so as we jump into the demo, I think it'd be best that I break it down to you in 4 areas. So first we have our books table. This is where it will house all of your books along with a lot of information about your books. And then we've got our dashboard. This is where it's going to give you some pretty cool metrics and things that are going on with the inventory and your repricing of your books. And then we've got a repricing page. This is where you're going to be focused in on just repricing one book. As you do repricing, whether you're using an automatic repricer or any other way you're doing repricing, there are going to be times that you're really going to want to look at the details. And this is really, really great to focus in on doing that with a bunch of good information and links to get this done very quickly and accurately for any book. And then finally, I've got some additional features and I'll touch upon those as well. Okay, so as I said earlier, we are going to be working quite a bit in the books table, and that is this tab. So what we see here is basically this is a list of our books, and you see we have the SKU, we've got the title, we've got the ASIN, we've got all kinds of good information here. So I'm not going to read off every single one to you, but let me scroll over a little bit to you. And let me, I guess from a repricing standpoint, let's talk about some things that are important, okay? When it comes to repricing, first of all, you want to use an automatic repricer. The automatic repricer is going to automatically change your prices, okay? But you're still in control. You want to update your prices, your minimum and your maximum, and the repricer will just change the prices in between those two numbers, right? So it's like your floor and your ceiling, okay? So we have that here for you. And then we've got the repricing rules. So these repricing rules are going to match whatever you've set up in Amazon for their automate repricing. Okay, so those two things need to be exactly the same. And in this example, in this demo, I have just 4 rules. I've got MBB, which stands for match buy box, matched ML FBA means match lowest FBA. Then I've got AL FBA by 5%, above lowest FBA by 5%, and then I've got match lowest FBA, SCOB, which stands for same condition or better. Okay, so you can make as many repricing rules as you like in Seller Central, and then they would just match here, and then it becomes very, very easy to manage. Okay, then we've got the repricing date and the future repricing date. So these are things that you may not have seen or I don't really think that this type of stuff is in other softwares, and this is what I think is going to do 2 things. It's going to really keep you well organized, and secondly, it's going to save you a ton of time so that you're not looking at books that you simply don't want or need to reprice on any given day. Let me give you an example. Let's say it's July or August or whatever, it's early, late summer, and you come across a couple of books that you're going to buy for Halloween, which are going to sell, in October, right? So when you buy that book, you don't really want to reprice it until probably early October, right? And you're probably going to want to price it, I would presume pretty high based upon what you sold it or what you purchased it for, and you don't want to look at it until October. So that's where you want to document the future reprice date. And the best time to do that is not just when you go to reprice. No, it's actually when you purchase the book. When you purchase the book, you should have been looking at the Keep It chart, and you'd have an idea, and you know that, hey, this is a book that I want to sell in October. I don't really care too much what's going to happen with the price in September. I don't want to lower my price. I don't want to change my price or anything. I just want to go back and update the price and the rest of my my rule, maybe my minimum, my maximum, and I want to do that sometime in October. So that's where the future reprice date comes in handy quite a bit. When it comes to repricing, the other thing you want to pay attention to and maybe give more weight to is how old is the book? How long ago did you send it to Amazon, right? So if a book is sitting on Amazon for a very long time, and you can decide what a long time is, that might be one that you want to, reprice more heavily or lower your minimum price a little bit more or change the rule or do something like that. So we have a few different ways that we can do that for you. We've got the, as you can see here, we've got the book age in months, and then we have a bucket. Buckets are just like, whatever. I think they're very similar to what we would see in Amazon, right? So you'd have an idea and you can just put them all together, or you can be very precise with the book age in months. And what I just said will make a little bit more sense when we start actually repricing some books. All right, let me move over a little bit. And then if you click on this, it will take you right to the Keep It chart. And if you click on the Amazon listing, it'll take you right to the Amazon listing where you can see all the offers and things. And then we also have the pricing card. So if you're not familiar with the pricing card, this is inside Seller Central. And then we have this field here, special attention, right? So when it comes to repricing, you might have a book for whatever reason. Maybe it's very expensive maybe it's an expensive book that you paid for, or it's just one that you really want to keep your eye on. You can just click special attention. And when you do that, it will appear in a view that is just for books that are labeled special attention. And I guess, again, this will make more sense when I jump in and we start repricing. The other cool thing that you can do here, because this is your software and you own it, you can really do what you like with it in terms of adding information, okay? So you could make yourself notes about a particular book, right? Maybe you could put in the date in which you you thought about a particular strategy. You say, okay, in mid-October, I want to raise the price by 5%. That's what I thought when I bought the book in July. Whatever it is, you can put in just a boatload of information and type it all out here, okay? And the other cool thing you can do, which I don't think you can do in any other software, is you can take screenshots of anything you want and upload them here, okay? Screenshots. So what I mean by that is, for example, let's say when you bought the book or when you first wanted to reprice it, you could take a screenshot of all the offers and actually put it in there, okay? So this, when you do this, if you do this, this is just giving you some information that you are never going to get any other way, right? Even the Keep It chart's not going to give you this information. And then as time goes on, you can go back and look and say, okay, like in this example, I put a date on here. That's, let me open this up a little bit. This is the date, 2026 on May 3rd. That's what the offers look like. And again, this is just an example. And then you can put in lots of attachments if you wanted to. So hopefully you're getting the vibe that this is a very flexible tool. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I do this occasionally for textbooks, right? If the book is selling very quickly, or maybe you think it's going to sell quickly, maybe take some screenshots, and then you can go back and look, and you'll have some really intelligent information on a book that others just don't have, right? How many offers, how many sellers, who was selling it, and then go back, a few days later, compare that screenshot to what it looks like today, and you'll know better than anyone else really what's going on with that book. Okay, so something you might want to consider to do for some of your books. All right. Now, so I did mention this tool was very flexible. So for example, what we can do in here, if we wanted to, for pretty much anything, you can grab a column, but you could just grab it and move it somewhere else. If you didn't want to look at something, for example, maybe we don't care about the title of the book so much, right? We're not going to delete it. Let's not delete anything. We're going to go down and we can hide it. And if you wanted to unhide it, you can just click over here and you can just click right there and show it again if you wanted to. You can put the columns like this, and you have just a ton of flexibility to move things around. Now I'm going to start, let's do repricing. Let's pretend, and this is not what I really recommend to do, but I just want you to know that you have the option. Okay. So one of the things we've said as you were, thinking about getting this, we said, well, we can reprice, we can change the prices of all your inventory pretty much all at the same time. Okay, so which if you're using Amazon's Repricer manually, this is certainly something that would probably take you hours to do, and you just wouldn't want to do that, right? We want to save time and be efficient. So you see this minimum and maximum, right? This is what I talked about. So when I know that when I go to reprice the inventory, it's always going to go in between those two. But let's assume I want to lower my minimum, okay? Before I do that, let me emphasize something to you, okay? And this is, I think, don't know if I mentioned this earlier. Maybe I'll be repeating myself here, but let me move this. This is the new selling price, okay? Okay, here's our new selling price. So when I'm repricing, the least important piece of information on this field is actually the price, believe it or not, the new selling price. Because when you're using an automatic repricer, that price should change and should go in between the minimum and in between the maximum, okay? And the way I do it is I always make my selling price my maximum price, okay? Because when I do that and then I start repricing, the automatic repricer is just going to, move it, right? It's going to go down, presumably, if I started at my maximum. It's going to go down. It might go to my minimum. It might go in between or whatever, but I have a maximum selling price. And of course, we can change any of this at any time, okay? So the actual selling price is not that important, and that's why I mentioned earlier that it's really not an effective way to reprice your inventory to simply go changing your selling price, okay? You are at a disadvantage when you are competing, that's what you're doing, against sellers that are using an automatic repricer, because the moment you change your price, they can simply match it, or they can even go below it instantly, and then, if you're not going to check it for a few more days, you are less likely to get the buy box, okay? So I don't think of the selling price as very important at all. It's very much more important to think about the minimum price, the maximum price, and the rule itself that you are establishing for any particular book. Okay. Now, and some of my customers have already beat me to the punch with this, but they said, how can I just want to do a formula field to just reduce all my the minimum price on all my books. How would I do that? It's very simple to do and very flexible. So you see these two columns here. We've got, we says minus minimum 2%, and then I've got plus max 3%. So what that means is that if we want to reduce our minimum price, let me put this right next to it, for example. So in this database, let's just say in this demo, I have 764 books in my database. And if you want to see sales start to jump up, you would change your price, right? We'll lower our price. We're going to lower our minimum. We're not going to lower the price itself. We might actually raise the price, but we're going to lower the minimum. So what we could do is we want to copy all this information, and this minimum price of 2% is simply taking 2% of this, right? So you can see, if you just glance at it, you'll notice that it's just going a little bit cheaper. So we can just click on this, and we would copy, click on here, hit paste, and 750 books it's changed. I might have had some that are blank. It should have done all of them. And there we go. So instantly we've just reduced all of our books by 2%. Okay. So we reduced the minimum. Okay. So the selling price, we could still make the selling price the maximum. And so if your books sell, we know that the minimum it's going to sell is whatever we have listed here. But of course, oftentimes you're going to sell at your maximum or somewhere in between. So we have a ton of flexibility to do this however you like. So if we want to raise our price on all of our books at once by 3%, you could do that. Same thing. You would just sit here, you would copy it, come over here and paste. Yes, I want to paste. And instantly it increased all of our books. We increased the maximum price by 3%. Now, of course, we are not limited to 2% or 3% or any other number. You can make it whatever you like. Okay. So I have detailed training on how to do that. It's not very difficult, but this is just a demo, so I don't want to go into the details. But literally, you're going to go in and either unhide one that we already have, or you're going to make a new one, and maybe I'll show you that a little bit as we go through. Now, that's one way to just do all your inventory, but typically that's not something you're going to want to do. So one of the most powerful things we have on this tool over using other tools like Google Sheets or Excel, in addition to be able to add attachments and just keep everything really clean and move things around, we have views. I haven't even talked about views, and we're going to get into them now. So we're going to click on views. Okay. Now we've got a bunch of different views here, but the ones I want you to think of are these, the ones that you're going to be using for repricing really are these, what I call saved searches, right? And I have 6 of them. Now you could have, you could have just a couple, you could have dozens if you really wanted to. And and you might be wondering, well, why do we have searches? Why do we need to search? Well, I'm going to give you some examples. Let's first say that you want to say that, you know what, I only want to look at my textbooks. And you're going to want to do this if you have textbooks and it's almost textbook season. So we're going to create a search that's only going to look at textbooks. So I'll click on search one. And again, this is a demo, so I've already got some filters in here, but we're going to modify them to just isolate our textbook. So you can see here, I've got the textbook or the sales pattern right here. And we only want to look at the green ones, which just say textbook regular. And this is one of the things, again, if you're sourcing, whether you're using our software or not, you really need to document what books are textbooks and which are not. And that's one of the great reasons of using Master Book Flippers, because it's just built in and a lot of them are already pre-populated for you. But if you're not using our software, using some other way, just from a repricing perspective, I'm just putting it in your mind that you're going to be at a disadvantage if you don't know what books of yours are textbooks and which are not. Okay. I know exactly which ones are textbooks. Okay. So we're going to click on this filter, And with this filter, I'm going to just put down here add at the bottom. I'm going to add a condition, and I'm going to click here, and we want sales pattern, so I can type it in and just like this, and there we got it. And then you have all these other options, right? You is not, but we said I wanted to do this that was only textbooks. So we're going to say the sales pattern is textbooks. And when you do that instantly, now you can see I'm only looking at textbooks, okay? So that's freaking awesome, right? But we can always take it a step further, and this is where I'm giving you so much flexibility to update your books. Let's say you also wanted to look at textbooks that also have a condition of acceptable, okay? So that's another thing you should be wanting to know, right? What condition is my books in, right? So if I wanted to isolate those, I can add another condition, and I'm going to say condition actually for the book condition, and I'm going to put is A for acceptable. And there we go. So I know I've got 14 books that are acceptable, and now what you can do from here is we could sort it if we wanted to. Let's sort it from oldest to newest, how old the book is. So we got this book up here that's over a year old, not good, right? But maybe we'll make a lot of money on that one, I don't know. But from here, you can change your prices, right? Or change the minimum. And remember, I can move things around. So remember, here's our minimum and maximum. And let's say I don't want it all the way on that side of the screen. I want it right now over here. And let me put the maximum over here as well. And now maybe you want to use the same way we did it before I showed you. We want to put in the minimum. I want to lower my minimum, but I want to do it by like 7%. Okay, let's just pick 7%. So I'm going to click over here and see. I'm just going to put in the number 7. Okay, and what I'm looking for is a calculation field that said 7% minus. Now I'm going to scroll down. I've got a bunch of them here. I have minus 8%. So let me show that one. So I'm enabling it. So it should be over here now. As I scroll over, I should be able to find it. I think all right, so there's my 8%. But if I wanted to do 9% or something, you would simply, you could just actually double click this and just change it to 9%, but then you want to change the formula. And the formula would be 91. So it's taking the minimum price times 91%, and you would be taking 9% off. So you see from this example, we're going from, in this book is an expensive book, we're going from $330 down to $300 for all of these. But if that's what you wanted to do, again, you would just come here, copy, paste, and we just dropped all the textbooks that are in acceptable condition by 9%. Okay, if that's what you wanted to do. Then when you did that, what I recommend doing is then we change the date repriced, and you would usually always make it to today's date. Now this is an example of, this is a demo, so I'm going to though pretend that today is 6/15. So I'm going to put 6/15. Whoops, that was 5/15, right? I'm going to put 6/15 in here. And when you do that, as long as that's what you wanted to do, it's going to disappear from this view. And the reason for that, which you want to understand this, is that you're done repricing that book. We don't need to worry about that book anymore, and it's not going to show up in your other repricing searches, because they're all going to have that same filter on it, which is the date repriced is not today's date, which again for this demo is 6/15. Okay, so I hope that made sense, but don't worry if you were a little confused or whatever. The training we have is really spectacular. Over 2.5 hours, detailed training, going over the stuff step by step. And when you click on these trainings, we've got chapters in there. We've got an AI summary in there for you. You'll be all set. So don't worry. They're high definition, all that good stuff. So you'll be all set. But I just want to want you to understand the concept that you can make this as simple or as granular as you want. But one of the ones you might want to do is might go by age, and you can mix all these things up, I've said. So for example, books that you just sent to Amazon, maybe you don't want to lower the price of those too much, right? It just got to Amazon or it's getting to Amazon, so you can make another search, and you can rename all these searches right? You can, again, you can have multiple searches. So this is how you would do the book months. You would add the filter and say, hey, anytime a book that is less than a month and a half, I want to look at those books. And let's say maybe you don't care what the sales pattern is, okay? But let's say you did want to care and you said, hey, books that are expensive, maybe that's what you want to do. Say, hey, books that are more expensive, I'm more willing to lower those a little bit more. So now you can put another filter and say, hey, where the total buy cost, this is what you paid, here's your out-of-pocket expense, and you can do whatever you want. You wouldn't want to do equals though, probably, right? You want to do it's less than or greater than. Let's say it's greater than, greater than $85. I don't have too many in here, but there they are. Instantly they'll show up, and you can make a search for that. That is a very good way to quickly bucketize. I'll use that word, bucketize books that, you know, they have sort of the same attributes, whether it be price, condition, their sales pattern, those types of things, and then you can reprice those all in the same manner. Okay, so that's the general concept, using this view to change all of these prices around. Okay, a couple other things regarding repricing in here. I touched upon special attention. So if at any point you're looking at the book and you say, you know, I really want to give this book special attention. Let's say you had looked at the Keep chart, or you've looked at the Amazon listing, whatever it might be. You would just click special attention. So let's say this book, this one on line 2 here, Introduction to Forensics. You're just going to click it. And when you click it, it's going to disappear from this particular view because I clicked on special attention. And then all the books that we would have clicked special attention will be here under the special attention. And I think this was the book right here. It's still on line 2. Okay, so now, and you scroll to the right, it's checked off. Okay, and then if you wanted to uncheck it off, or you no longer thought it was special, you could uncheck it and then it wouldn't show up here anymore. Okay. All right, now I touched upon the future reprice date. So that's important. So for books that you are looking at when you're repricing and you happen to look at the Keep chart, you may ask yourself, or tell yourself this question: hey, I'm looking at the Keep chart right now. I believe that maybe these other prices are priced too low, so that maybe they're going to sell out very quickly. That happens all the time. And you say, I'm going to push this out for 3 weeks, meaning I don't want to change my minimum. I don't want to change my maximum. I don't want to change the rule. I don't want to look at this book for 3 weeks. You would just put that price as a future reprice date. And then the great thing is when you come to reprice and you've got it set up properly, when you go through your saved searches, you will no longer see that book on those days. And when that date comes along, there's no need to change any of the filters or anything, right? So it'll just show up, right? Because it's very dynamic. So I don't want you to think with these filters, there's something that you're really going to just more or less, you're just setting it up one time, or periodically. I shouldn't say one time, whenever you want to change them. But typically, I don't even change mine that very often, but I'll just set them up, and then you just come in and you reprice off of however many ones that you had set up. That's I think the best way that's going to speed up your repricing and have you not waste time looking at books that don't need to be repriced on any particular day. Okay, so huge time saver when you start to utilize the future repricing date. And by the way, you see in this example, you don't see them all populated, and that's intentional, right? Because if I'm doing a cadence of once a week, I'm going in and repricing my books, then that's what I'm going to do for most of my books, or a portion of my books. But then there's those others that I did push out specifically with a repricing date in the future, and those will pop up on that particular day. Or if I'm repricing after, if that future reprice date is in the past, then that will show up for me to reprice as well. Okay, so huge time saver and efficiency helper when you utilize that future reprice date. Okay, another thing, I've got some customers, and I know I have not emphasized this enough, but one of the great things about using this tool is being able to use it with someone else simultaneously. Okay, again, this is something I don't think you're really going to see anywhere. And this is not I don't have this pre-built, but I'm just going to show you very briefly how this can be done. Let's say I hire somebody, or I have a business partner. I've got some customers that have like 2 people, they're owners or whatever, and you can put their names in here. So let's say I was working with, let's say I have a business partner named John. I'll just put name here, right? And we know that it's either he or I. And so I'm creating a new field here, and then I'm going to use a single select field, and I'll just put my name here, and then I'll put down John, and we'll give John a different color than me, and I'll be dark blue. There we go. And now what we can do is we can assign books to different people. Okay, so let's say John. And this would be great if you're going to use an assistant. And I think if you've done repricing, you know that this might be one of the areas in your business that you'd want. So let's say, now I'm giving all John the special attentions, but I did add that field in there. And now that we've added that in, I can go to any one of these searches and I can show the name field, that new name field that I created. I'll unhide it. And there it is. And now we're going to give, we'll give John these. I'm going to do this quickly. Actually, I'll pause the video and give John a bunch. Okay, so I've given John a bunch of books. Now let's give him his own view. So I'm going to go to any view, and I'm just going to duplicate it. And this time I'm going to put John's name on here. And I'm going to adjust the filter so that it has John's name. Put name, and we want the name is John. And when I do that, instantly John has 17 books. And they are assigned to him. Now you don't see his name on here because that name field is hidden, but we can unhide it if we like. And there's John's name here on the end. All right, so these are the books assigned to John. And then in the other first searches, if you wanted to, you could put your name. So again, think of complete flexibility in using the tool and complete efficiency that you're not going to really find anywhere else. And this is really going to transform your repricing to ways that you really probably haven't thought of before. So I did touch upon repricing. That's how you would go in and reprice. And again, I need to keep this demo kind of short, but I say short, I know it's a long demo already, but again, you're going to get very, very detailed videos on the training. And if you ever ran into a problem, you would contact us and we would help you out. But that's how that's essentially how it works from a high level. Now, a couple things I haven't mentioned, which I'll touch upon. So remember, this software is not connected to your Amazon account, as I mentioned. So you have to, I'm going to put in quotes, manually put the information in here. And really all that means is, and I think you have to do this for other third-party repricers. I remember doing this at one time, where you have to get information, you have to download information out of Seller Central and upload it. So those are things you're going to do in this software as well. But if you're using Master Book Flipper software, it's simply a copy and paste of, when you first start off, you would put all your inventory here, and then as you send new books into Amazon, you would add them in here. And it's really a copy and paste that takes less than a minute. But I'm not going to go over it here to try to, again, keep this demo at a reasonable length. But again, there are detailed training videos on there. Now a couple other things I'll say here. We have you can add a book manually if you wanted to. You would just go down. You could really do this. Well, you should probably do it when there's no filters. This particular view has no filters, so we all have all 764 books in here, and you could just type in your SKU or copy and paste it, type in the title, put in your ASIN, and put in what other information you wanted to put in here. So there we have that. I will talk about the uploading in a little bit. So there's a couple other things. If you wanted to find a book for some reason, we have a super search. You click here, and so I think this is similar to Amazon. This is going to work a little better, I think, though. So when we're looking for super search, it's really for the you can search for any part. Check this out: any part of the ASIN, any part of the SKU, and any part of the title. All right, so I have the word twins up here. I guess I have 2 books. Yeah, I have 2 books that have the word twins. Now I'm doing this on the fly. Let's use the word Bible. I probably have a Bible book. Yeah, a bunch of Bible books in here. So there's my Bible books. And if I wanted to, if you wanted to look up part of a SKU, you could do that. Like, let me do this one, 12, 25, 26. I'm going to do part of it though. I'm going to copy that and paste it in there. And there we go. So I got 6 books that have part of that SKU. So that can be very, very helpful as well for you just to find books however you like. And again, this criteria that I'm showing you now could also be incorporated to any of the searches that I showed you. So the super search could be used in a few different ways. Okay, so next is our dashboard. So this is where it's going to give you some really good information about your business, right? It's going to tell you how many books you have in inventory, what's your average selling price, the age in months, and the value of your inventory based upon what you paid for all the books. We've got future repricing. So this is gonna, this can really help you with your planning. You're going on vacation or whatever in a couple of weeks, and you don't want to like have books that you scheduled to be repriced while you're on vacation. Like, hopefully not anyway, right? So at least this will give you a guide. It's just a little chart. It's going to show you by dates, and this can all be modified to however you want to look at it. But that's might give you a different way of thinking about how you're going to repricing your books and how much workload you have coming up if you're utilizing the future repricing field, which I highly recommend. All right, next you've got your inventory age. So this is going to be very similar to some reports that you can run on Amazon. It's just telling you, hey, how old are my books? Hopefully you should be on the left if it looks like this, right? You don't want your book sitting out there for several months or a year or longer. That might happen for a few books from time to time for whatever reason, but just to kind of keep you up to speed. And next we got our repricing rules. So in this demo, I've got 4 rules. You could have more, you could have less, but it's just going to show you, hey, how many books do I have in what repricing rule? So that's very helpful. And then we've got another thing, sales patterns. So trying to see, hey, what books do I have in my inventory, right? And this plays a big part of how your business is going to run. If you've got a ton of books in that are textbooks, don't get discouraged or anything if it's June or July and your books aren't selling as much, right? Because the textbooks typically going to sell very heavily in August, towards the end of August, September, things like that, right? So really good so that you have a good command and know what is going on. That's why I highly recommend that you populate, you have at least somewhere, either if you're using Master Book Flipper software, it's already in there, but you're utilizing somewhere that you're keeping track of your sales patterns of your book. And then probably not as important, I don't think, but the condition of the book, but it's just nice to know. You can just look at it, at least you know what condition your books are in, and then maybe, hey, what percentage of your books are you designating as special over here. And all this stuff is in real time. So in this demo I have 755 books, but if I went in and let's just delete this book for example, if I deleted that book, now I have 754. So everything is in real time. So whatever you update here will automatically be reflected here. Okay, so that is our dashboard. And now we go to, let's jump to reprice inventory. So there are going to be times where this is just a really good tool if you just want to focus in on one book. And this is good because it just, again, it does what it's supposed to do. You don't have to worry about other books on your screen to distract you. You just would pull up the book, or you can search by the SKU. You pull up a random book and you've got all the information on the book. And if you wanted to go to the Keepa chart, you would just click on this. It would take you to the Keepa chart. This will take you to the Amazon listing. And the pricing card, if you're not familiar, is very, very effective. So if you click on that, it's going to pull up this. This is the repricing card for this particular book. And from here is where you can directly update not only the price, but the minimum and the maximum, and you can see the other offers. As you can see, you could see how many offers are Prime, and this is something I don't think you can get this anywhere else. I don't think in any third-party repricing tool or anywhere else in Amazon So we just have one click, we'll take you right there. So if you're going to be doing, if you just want to focus in on one book, this is probably where you're going to want to start. You just come in here, boom, and you either change it on the fly, or you can just come in here and you can change the minimum, the maximum, selling price. You want to change the rule, you can do that. You can add notes in here, and you can put the day that once you're done repricing, you put today's date. You can modify or populate the future reprice date. You can add screenshots, all that good stuff. And then again, I've got all this stuff I'm going over either in the training. I'll touch upon some of that here, but this is just tips and reminders that'll just always be there for you as just a helpful tip. You can scroll all the way down and look at it if you wanted to reference any of that information to help you along. So that'll always be at the bottom of each one of these. So that's how you can reprice and focus in on only one book. Lots of good information. And again, all of this information is going to be dependent upon what you input here. So if you have all these fields populated, then everything will show up. But if you don't, for example, have the buy cost on what you paid for the book, then certain things aren't going to be populated. But I think you would know what you should want to know, obviously, and have it documented, I think, on your total buy cost. Break even, I didn't talk about the break even price. So this does not get populated automatically, and I know people love to know what the break even price is. Now I can't really speak with what other software tools do, but we get the break even price from Master Book Flipper software. It's something that we offer with a couple of our plans, and that is obviously very helpful for you to reprice your books. You're going to want to know, hey, what's my break even price? It's going to help you obviously make better repricing decisions. And then we've got our ship date and all this other stuff. All right, I'm going to touch upon some of the other features we have. So in here as well, you can click Add Books. So this is where you can add a book. Now remember, I think I touched upon, you could go to the bottom. You could go to the very bottom here, hit this plus sign, and just add a book, across like you would in a normal spreadsheet. Or you can go here and just add it in manually. So you've got, you put in your SKU, and I put there the SKU is required. That's actually the only thing that is required, at least initially. You probably want to put the title in, the ASIN. The more information, the better. But once you would add it, and then once you click Add Book, it would just automatically show up here. I'm not going to add it just to save time, but that is how you would add a book. It's pretty simple to do. Okay, a couple other things. So we have this solds table, and I've got detailed training on this, but I'll just explain it. It's pretty quick. So as books sell, you're probably going to want to not have to reprice them anymore, right? So you're going to you can just run a simple report out of Amazon. You can do it either every week, every 30 days, whatever. You put the SKUs in here, and then you come down here to solds. Where is it? And whatever books in here, you would just delete them out, and then you would delete it here. So that's something that just takes a couple of minutes, every week, however often you want to do it, just to keep the data clean and keep the books in here that need to be repriced in here, and remove the ones that don't need to be repriced. Let me touch about training real quick. So the training, so again, we've got over 2 hours of training, very detailed training videos. So lots of good information on here, and when you click on this, again, you'll get the high definition training video. We've got chapters in there to save time. You can speed these up, all kinds of stuff. You can use their arrows to go backward and forward. So you're going to get through these trainings pretty quickly, and it's going to give you good detailed information step by step. And then quick links. So in the trainings, I'm going to tell you in various things to go to Amazon, Seller Central, and we just have quick links to take you right to where you need to go. So anywhere within the training that we tell you to go somewhere, you'll have a quick link to get to it quickly. Okay, a few more items that I'll need to touch upon. Let's see. So adding rules. So this is when you initially add your books in here, you're going to want to assign them rules, right? They're not going to have a repricing rule even if you're using Master Book Flippers. This is where you would come in, and in fact, the minimum maximum won't be populated either. So that would be pretty simple, though. You you'd look at your original selling price. Let's see, these were books that I wanted to, this is my original selling price for these 5 books. You would just copy that information, paste it here, and then, let's just say I'm going to start off and I'll go 5% minimum. You can make it whatever, 2%, whatever. I'm making it 5%. I'll just copy those, paste them there, and then you could assign a rule to them. So let's say I'm going to match the lowest FBA, and then you would populate the date repriced. In this example, I'll just assume today is 6/15/26. And once you do that, it'll disappear, and you can just click here and it'll do it for all of them, and they're done. So once they're out of here, that means essentially you have no more work to do in that particular view. And you can do the same thing for, you could splice it up and do textbooks differently. So let's say in that previous example I did textbooks at 5% less. Maybe you want to do non-textbooks at 3% or 10% or whatever you want to do. And so you don't necessarily need to use all of these. You could delete them if you just wanted to do all your books the same. All right, so once you're done repricing your books, you would come over here to step 5. And the reason we have step 5 is because if you attempt to, and this is using any repricing tool or you're just doing it manually, if you try to update your price, whereas, for example, your minimum price is more than your maximum price, there's going to be an error. Amazon will not allow you. So I created this so that you don't run into errors with Amazon. I'd rather just notify you here so you can fix it before you try to update your prices on Amazon. So in this example, we have 5 errors here, and I didn't populate a new price here. And again, I told you this is what I do. You do not need to do this. I always make my new price my maximum, and that was the only error I had here. So that fixed the problem. So if for example, the new price was greater than the maximum price, it would show up here, or if the minimum was greater than the maximum, or it didn't have a repricing rule or whatever, it would show up here, and then you would be instructed to fix it. And it should be pretty obvious as to how to fix those. Okay, but if you don't have, but this is the sequence in what you want to go. That's why we have it numbered. So you would always want to check if you have errors. And then when you go to step 6, this is where you are actually going to take all these SKUs and you are going to create a file, and then you're going to upload it to Amazon. So I'm not going to go over that in this demo, other than to say it just takes a couple minutes, and we've got the detailed training, but it's pretty simple to do. So this is what would change your price. So your price would be whatever you said here. So in this example, I actually don't have what I told you I do normally, but this is just a demo. So this new price is in between the minimum and maximum, which is fine. But again, I usually just make it my maximum price, but you can do as you like. So those will change your price. And then the same thing for the repricer. So this is going to place each one of the SKUs into a repricing rule. Even if it's already there, this is what you just upload to Amazon. Okay, so it's a good idea just to upload it anyway. Some books may not have been in a rule, and this will force them into a rule, and it just used the exact same minimum and maximum price we used over here. So once you have these files saved to your computer, this is how you can easily update all your prices at once, as frequently as you would like. My recommendation, don't get yourself crazy and think that you need to do this every day. I don't think you need to do it every day, but you could. But it's something that I just do once a week. Because remember, you're always repricing because you're using an automatic repricer. But if you want to raise all your prices, like I said, if I wanted to make this $73.26 and you don't want to stick down at the $67, you update this and the price will go right to $73.26, and then the automatic repricer will take over, and it might lower you right down to $67.96. It depends on what's going on with the marketplace and the rules that you have set up. So it's going to be very, very simple for you to update all your prices and just hold on to that file, and then each week or however frequently you are repricing, adjusting. When I say repricing, again, I've got to emphasize the focus is not on this, it's not on your selling price, it's really more on your minimum your maximum price and the rules that you have created and will be using, as I mentioned, in these searches. So you're going to upload those files, and then when you do that, that's exactly when all your books will start being repriced. And I think I've gone over all these other ones. And this is, I think I just put this here. If you ever wanted to update your rules, it's just isolated. You double click on here. And again, I've got trainings on this. You can add several more. You can delete ones if you're not going to use them anymore. And again, tons of flexibility on how you can update your rules. All right, so that's a quick overview on the demo.